Hi friends, Stephanie here and I'm back with more movie chatter. And what I have for you today is another installment of the segment, Movies People Hate But I Enjoy. And I've done this before and we had a lot of fun with it. At least I had a lot of fun and the people in the comments seem to have a lot of fun. But this is just, it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's just based on my very unprofessional investigation on social media, because a lot of these scored very high. Some of them are even award winners or award contenders, so they're not bad movies by and large, but they really seem to be divisive. They were very polarizing, some of these movies. Like, I saw people just throwing down on social media. So I will share my findings with you. I'll let you know what I think, and please let me know down in the comments, what are some movies that you find that people really don't like, but you connect with them. And then of course there's going to be a part 2 again, and that would be movies that people like that I don't connect with, and that's where it gets really a little dicey for me. But I'm just going to get right into it. I have 10 films here, and I'm going to keep my commentary pretty brief because a lot of these movies, I'm sure many of you have probably already seen them and have your own opinions on them, and that's great. This first one, I couldn't believe the amount of hate that this one got. It scored very well. It has Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt are two of the leads, and they're fantastic. And it's Babylon, and it takes place in the 1920s, and it says it is the period of unbridled decadence and depravity in early Hollywood, and that about sums it up. And we see it in the very first scene where there's this crazy party going on, and things like that take place all throughout the movie. I thought the casting was great. I thought the cinematography was great. And one of the things that really drew me into this movie is that it takes place in the period of time when we are going from the silent films to the talkies, and we're seeing how these actors have such a hard time making that change, because they're so used to making their expressions and their body language and things that they do physically. They're used to acting physically more so than memorizing lines or hitting a mark or this and that. And we see what struggles they have. And I found that to be, as a film lover and a film fan, I found that to be just really interesting and a really cool look at film history. Because if you think about it, imagine if today's actors, today's modern actors, all of a sudden they had to go back to silent films and they had to do everything with body language and facial expressions, and they had no dialogue. How difficult that would be, and how it would change movies. And that's basically what we're seeing here. We're seeing that changeover, and I just found it to be fascinating. I was hooked into this from beginning to end. I thought everybody in this was great. I loved Babylon. I thought it was great. So let me know down in the comments what you thought of this one, because I know this was one people were coming out swinging on either side of this one. They either loved it or they hated it. There was really no in between. So Babylon is my first pick. And this second one, whew, I was surprised. I was really looking forward to this movie, and I didn't read the social media comments or the Reddit. I didn't go to Reddit or anything like that until I had seen the movie, because I didn't want anything to mess up my first viewing experience, which is true for all of these. But it's Cate Blanchett in Tar. And before I watched the movie, I heard what an amazing movie it was, what a masterpiece it was. There was Oscar buzz around it. And I watched it and I felt the same way. I was absolutely blown away by Cate Blanchett's performance. I thought it was one of her best. It's a top tier performance from her. Yes, the movie does run a little long, and I guess at some points, for some people, maybe it could feel a little bit slow or a little too drawn out. But for me, I guess I was just so awestruck by her performance and what she was doing on screen that I just didn't even notice the time. And basically she plays a conductor who's very accomplished, and she knows it. She's arrogant. She's very full of herself. She's overconfident. She teaches classes. She kind of makes her students feel like they're almost not worthy of being in her company. She says what she thinks. She says what she feels. She's not a very nice person. She even has a partner in the movie, and they have a child together, and she's kind of like an absentee mom, and the other woman is left to care for the child all the time, and it's a very difficult relationship. And she is just all about her career, and she does what she needs to do. She just picks up and goes, and it really is a character study in narcissism. She is it's a textbook narcissist. And if you can hang in there until the end, it kind of explains how that could have happened or why that may have happened to this character in particular. But she is a brilliant, brilliant conductor in this movie. And what she did, just as an aside, how much she was into this role was she actually learned how to speak German, she learned how to play piano, and she studied conducting so that she could pull off being a conductor or acting as a conductor. And I think she did a brilliant, brilliant job. I love this movie. I could watch it anytime, anywhere, but I'll tell you, people were bored to death. They either loved it or they were falling asleep. And I can understand if you're not into the character study and it is a little bit of a slow burn, it does run a little bit long, but I was all in. I was there for it. But that was the biggest complaints I heard about this one. So let me know if you saw Tar, what you thought about it, and what you thought about Cate Blanchett's performance in this overall. Because let me tell you, the opening sequence and her opening monologue blew me away. I couldn't believe, I was blown away. I was sucked in from the first 2 minutes. So Tar is my second pick. Now this one should come as no surprise. You know, anytime there's a list, there's going to be a Rob Zombie movie on it. And this time I went with The Lords of Salem, and good old Sherry Moon Zombie stars in this one. And she plays a radio DJ, for those of you who haven't seen it. And they receive this item, a box, and there's a record in it, and they're supposed to play the record. And as she goes back to her apartment, she starts to have visions or dreams. She's not sure what's going on. But basically, this is a story about, it's witches. It's a story about witches. And I loved so much of this movie. I thought this movie was such a departure from everything he had done before. I thought Sherry Moon Zombie was fantastic. I loved seeing her just as not crazy baby from the Firefly trilogy, but just like a down-to-earth, you know, radio DJ hanging out with her friends. But then she goes home and things are a little weird, and it gets weirder and weirder and weirder the more she's listening to this record. And we start to see things, and things start to get really weird, and she's kind of going along for the ride. And up until, I would say, the last 20 minutes, I thought this was just going to be just a grand slam home run. I thought it was going to blow everybody out of the water. It takes a super weird turn in the last 20 minutes, which you're either going to go along for the ride and you're going to be like, yep, this is what's going to happen, or this is what was supposed to happen, and I could see how this would happen, or it's going to totally lose you. If you were invested, it's going to totally lose you. And I think that's what happened to a lot of people. Also, there's a lot of complaints that Sherry Moon Zombie is in all of his movies. And I mean, come on, if Sherry Moon Zombie is your wife, you telling me you're not going to put her in everything you can? And she has always said, I'm not an actor. I never wanted to be an actor. She does it for Rob, and she does enjoy it, but it was never her, she never aspired to be an actor, but she is. And I think she did a fantastic job in this one. It was so much better than I expected it to be, but people, again, they either love it or they hate it. And if they hate it, they are very, very vocal about it. And I just thought Lords of Salem was really good. I thought maybe it was a slight misstep those last 20 minutes, but it did not take away from the movie for me. So I really love Lords of Salem. I would watch it anytime, anywhere. And this one is part of the Criterion Collection, and Jane Campion actually won Best Director for this one. I thought it was fantastic. I think Benedict Cumberbatch was unbelievably good in this one. And it is The Power of the Dog. And what we have is Jesse, it's Kirsten Dunst, and then we have Jesse Plemons. I always forget his last name. Jesse Plemons and Benedict Cumberbatch play brothers, and Kirsten Dunst has lost her husband, and they come in. Jesse Plemons and Benedict Cumberbatch come in, and they're going to help her with her ranch, and they're going to kind of take over managing the ranch. But what they don't realize in the beginning is that Benedict Cumberbatch, his character has a really, really mean, evil streak in him. And there's nothing that sets him off more than weakness. And Kirsten Dunst has a son. He's a teenage son. And he's kind of like a mama's boy, and he's quiet, and he's not a real strong, like, cowboy type character. He's more quiet, reserved, maybe a little wimpy, you would call him. So Benedict Cumberbatch's character, he's just got it out for him from the beginning. He tortures this kid. He is brutal to the kid. And to make matters worse, Jesse Plemons marries his mother, so now this guy's his uncle. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. But I thought this was a beautifully done movie. I thought the cinematography is amazing. It is a gorgeous movie to look at. It is beautifully shot. Jane Campion's directing is second to none. I absolutely love everything she puts her hands on. She is fantastic, and I thought all the acting in this was great. I thought the story was great. It's definitely slow, and you have to stay with it because the payoff is fantastic. It is so worth the watch. And this one it's 128 minutes, so it's just over 2 hours. It's not like it's a 3.5, 4 hour movie. But I know it can feel slow if you're not into more of like a slow build type of a movie. But I thought Power of the Dog was a winner, and I love everything Jane Campion does. So let me know what you thought of this one, because people were definitely divided over that one. Some people were like, I couldn't even finish it. I put it in for half an hour, couldn't even watch it anymore because they were that bored. Now, if all those didn't set you off enough, you're probably just going to leave when you see me hold this one up. But hear me out. Here it comes. Ready? Barbie. Did you leave? You probably clicked away from the video, but that's okay, because I don't take this very seriously at all. I don't get into the politics of it. I don't care if it's a feminist movie or not. I don't care about any of that stuff. And as a matter of fact, when Greta Gerwig announced she was making a Barbie movie, I couldn't have been less interested. I mean, look at me. Do I look like I would play with Barbie dolls? I have no interest in Barbie. But my thing with Greta Gerwig is I am a fangirl. I'm a super fan of Greta Gerwig. Anything she does, I'm there. So I listened to the interviews that she was doing to kind of promote the film before it came out. And what I heard is that she was, and I know this about her, she is very into classic cinema, she's into French cinema, she's into reading, she's into everything. She's very much an artist, and she wants to know everything she can about a project and what she can bring to that project before she even signs on the line. So she was very much influenced by certain movies like The Wizard of Oz, The Red Shoes, really an American in Paris, like very important movies. They really inspired what she tried to do with Barbie. And that's what made me want to see it. Other than the fact that I knew it was going to be funny, because Greta Gerwig, she has a great sense of humor. It's a very dry sense of humor. And I thought this was fantastic. The opening monologue where they have an adult narrator, I forget who narrated it, but they're narrating it, and they have all these little girls throwing away their dolls and realizing that, hey, I wasn't just put here to raise kids or have babies and just, be a homemaker. I thought that was hilarious. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take it to be like heavy-handed or overly pushing the feminist agenda, as people called it. But man, I cannot remember the last time I saw people fighting, like really fighting on social media about how much they absolutely hated this movie. They found it unwatchable. And meanwhile, I just kind of went in and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe they tried to do a little bit too much, but I had a blast with this. I just thought it was funny. I thought it was light. I thought it was funny. I thought it was silly. I thought at parts it made, it was like tongue-in-cheek, but it definitely had things to say, and they got it done. But I thought this was really a lot of fun. It was so much better than I expected it to be. I expected nothing from it. I thought the set design was beautiful. I loved all the colors. It looks fantastic on Blu-ray. And I just had a really good time with it. And there was an interview that someone did with her, and they said, is this a feminist film? Because that's what people are saying. And she's like, you know what? I guess parts of it are feminist, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. And she's like, but it's not, because, they're also trying to work with Ken, and they're also trying to make Ken be the best that he can be. And the way she put it is, she said, if you look at it this way, higher tides raise all ships. So the better we do, the better we all do. And that was really the point she was trying to make with this. I'm paraphrasing, but that was her point. Like, we can all do better and we all rise up together. So I don't know. And I'm sure you all saw the fighting on social media. It was wild. People are still, oh, it's woke, it's this, it's that. I just had fun with it. I don't know. But maybe that's just me. I didn't really get into the politics of it, but I found it very interesting. I thought it was really well done. Like I said, yeah, a little too much in some spots, like they tried to cram a little too much into the 2 hour runtime, but I thought this was a blast. And no, it's not for kids, it's an adult movie. But let me know what you thought about Barbie if you're still here. Are you still here? Yeah, don't go away. It gets better. All right, Barbie's gone. She's gone. We're done. We're done with Barbie. Now, this is one that I don't know if a lot of people have heard of, but this is an A24 movie. It may be out of print. I love this movie. Now, this is a movie that didn't score great. People were kind of confused by it a little bit, but it's based on a real place, and it's Matthew McConaughey and Naomi Watts in The Sea of Trees. And what this is about is there is a forest, and this is true. There is a forest. I'm going to put the name down here because I cannot say it correctly. There is a forest in Japan at the base of Mount Fuji, and it is kind of known as a place where people go if they want to end their lives. And that's what it's known for. And it's also known that people go there to hike, and even if they take like guide ropes to find their way in and out, people tend to get lost in here, and they unintentionally end up perishing because the elements at night and stuff get so brutal, and they're stuck in there and they can't find their way out. Apparently it's very, very easy to get lost in this forest, even if it's not your intention to go there to end your life. And what happens is Matthew McConaughey gets a one-way ticket to Japan to go to this forest, and he goes there with the intention of not coming back. And we don't know why, but through a series of flashbacks through the movie, we find out, Naomi Watts plays his wife, we find out the story of what brought him to this particular place and why. And along the way, he meets a guy, and he meets another guy who's on a similar journey, and they kind of befriend each other. But I thought this was such a great movie. It's so full of layers. It's so much, there's so much depth to it. There's so much character and just heartfelt moments, and you can understand how people end up in these positions. And it's really a study on loss and grief, and maybe looking back and wishing you had done things that you thought you had more time for. And it's just a really amazing character study. And also, I didn't even know that such a place existed until this movie. So for me, it was very eye-opening. And I just think it's amazing. So let me know if you've seen Sea of Trees. Tell me in the comments what you thought of it. But people really have no interest in this. After I saw it, I started to research it. People were bashing it left and right. They're like, it was boring, it was silly, it made no sense. I thought it was amazing. So if you haven't seen Sea of Trees, see if you can, I'm not sure if it's out of print, but see if maybe you can stream it somewhere. I think it's worth at least one watch. And like I said, I will put the name of the forest down below. You can do some research on that, because that alone will really blow your mind. Now this one is another film by Damien Chazelle. And this is First Man. And this is it stars Ryan Gosling. And it is the biopic about Neil Armstrong, who was the first man to walk on the moon. And I loved this. I thought, I heard rumblings about it from when it was first announced. People were saying, oh, it's boring, it's slow, it's this, it's that. I thought this was amazing. It's a beautifully shot movie. It's an amazing look at an amazing American's life, how he got into the space program, and the dedication and the amount of work that it takes to do such a thing. And I just thought this was fascinating. I loved everything about it. The CGI was great. The cinematography was great. Everything about it was great. Now, I will say that Ryan Gosling is very, very stoic in this movie, like barely cracks a smile. And that was one of the complaints. People did not like the way Neil Armstrong was portrayed in this movie. I saw it over and over and over again. They're like, do you think you could have let him crack a smile? Now, I don't know anything about Neil Armstrong personally. I don't know if he was a happy person or what his deal was, his personality. But people were not happy with the way he was portrayed in this movie, and I thought this was an amazing movie. I thought it was a home run. So let me know if you've seen First Man, if you like it, because people didn't seem to like it that much, and it did score very well. So I don't know, somebody must have liked it somewhere, somebody other than me. But I thought First Man was fantastic, and if you haven't seen it, give it a look. Now this one I rewatched this one because of the Oceans trilogy, 11, 12, and 13 that came out. And I'm like, you know what, let me go back and watch Oceans 8. Because listen to this cast: Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett, Anne Hathaway, Mandy Kipling, Sarah Paulson, Awkwafina, Rihanna, and Helena Bonham Carter. Now, this is Ocean's 8, and Sandra Bullock is playing Danny Ocean's sister, George Clooney's sister, and he is supposedly passed. And she is in jail, she gets out, and she tries to get her girls together because she wants to do this jewel heist. Now, I will admit, the first time I watched this, I was kind of like, yeah, you know, it was okay, it wasn't great. Now, I am in a new phase of my life where I can't hear a thing out of my right ear. So I'm constantly watching things with subtitles on. I watch everything with the subtitles on. And I wanted to rewatch this just because I had just watched the trilogy. And I loved this. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was so brilliantly written. I thought it was just like the other Ocean's movies. I thought it was very smart. It's very fast. It's interesting. I love the cast. I thought they were great. They had great on-screen chemistry. I just thought it was a great movie. And I think the difference for me the second time was the subtitles, because I didn't miss any of those details that I probably missed the first time, because it does go at a pretty good clip. Now, I don't know what the issue was with the general public, but a lot of people, they just didn't want to see this. I don't know if it was because it was an all-female cast. I don't know if they were burned out on the Ocean's trilogy. I don't know what it was, but all I know is that people were like, yeah, it just didn't live up to the hype. It didn't live up to the expectations of the Ocean's trilogy. Didn't live up to what they wanted it to be. They're like, it's just not realistic. But I mean, none of them are realistic. I mean, they can't pull off these things, can they? No, I don't think so. But I thought this was really, really good. And it's a shame, because I would love to see them do another one of these with the same cast. I know Sandra Bullock is on break from acting right now, but I would love to see like an Ocean's 9. I think it would be fantastic. And I thought it was great. I really, really liked this second time around. So if you haven't seen Ocean's 8, maybe give it a watch. Now, these last two, this first one, this is a tough sell. I'm going to have a hard time selling you guys on this one, because this was, first of all, I think it was marketed wrong. And second of all, it's another one you have to watch it with the subtitles. Everything is very, very subtle, and it's talking in very hushed tones. Now, this is based on the Tony Award winning play, and it is called The Humans. Listen to this cast. It's Richard Jenkins, Jane Hootie, Amy Schumer, Beanie Feldstein, Stephen Yeun, and June Squibb. And they play a family, and they're going to their daughter's, Richard Jenkins and his wife are going to his daughter's new apartment for the first time. They have no furniture. They're going for Thanksgiving. They have no furniture. It's vacant. It's, the movers haven't arrived yet. And right away, we see that something is off, something is wrong. Richard Jenkins is very paranoid. He's looking out the windows. He notices everything, every sound, every movement, every person outside the windows. He is all over it. And we're like, what is wrong with this guy? Now, again, I watched it with the subtitles on. This is one that you have to watch with the subtitles on, because there are so many little side conversations going on. If you miss one thing, you're going to miss the whole point of the movie. And that, I think, is the hard part about this. Also, this, for some reason, was marketed as a horror movie. But what I took away from this is the horror that they're trying to sell you are the horrors that we hold within ourselves as people, which are basically unresolved trauma. Because that's what this movie is about. It's about a family who is struggling, and they struggle to communicate with each other without it turning into an argument. And a lot of it is based upon a trauma that happened that nobody has really completely dealt with, and it affects every bit of their family and their family dynamics. Every relationship in this family is directly influenced by this trauma that has happened. And like I said, this was based on a play. The playwright, he rewrote the whole thing to make it a film, and I just think it's fantastic. I will tell you, there is a scene towards the end where the father just breaks down and it absolutely tore my heart out. It broke me because a lot of PTSD, there's a lot of paranoia, there's a lot of unresolved trauma. And if you don't deal with any kind of trauma, I'm talking about anything, this is going to be the end result, is that you're just going to have trouble functioning on your own, let alone in a family group or dynamics. And I just thought that everybody in this was fantastic. And like I said, you have to watch it with the subtitles on, because otherwise you're going to miss really important things and you're not going to get it, because it's very, very subtle. But this is so good. If you can just give it a try, see if you can get something out of it, because I think this is really good. And at times it's a very quiet movie, and it just seems like they're just kind of, you know, going along, doing their thing, having Thanksgiving dinner. An argument will break out and then they try to resolve it or squash it because they don't want to deal with anything. But I think The Humans is a brilliantly written movie and play. And I think it's a really interesting look at trauma, PTSD, and grief in particular. I think it's amazing. So give The Humans a shot. It's an A24 film. If you're an A24 fan, just watch it because it's A24. That's my sales pitch for you. Now this last one, this surprises me that people fight over it. Now with The Humans I understand, because people said they were just bored out of their mind. They were waiting for the horror and it never happened. But this one, this has been a classic for so long, and what I'm seeing is like this newer generation coming up, they really don't like this and they're very vocal about it, and I'm interested. I want to know why. But it is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. This is his interpretation of the Stephen King novel, but it's Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And I know Stephen King did not like what Stanley Kubrick did with this version of The Shining. But I grew up on this. I love this movie. I think Jack Nicholson is fantastic. Shelley Duvall is great. The kid is great. Red Rum, everything. I think that the Overlook Hotel, it's a character all in its own, and it's about isolation and what isolation can do to someone. And this family is, they're going to be caretakers for the Overlook Hotel in the off season. They're snowed in. There's a blizzard. And Jack Nicholson, he just, you know, he goes nuts. Everybody knows the story. He goes nuts. And I just think it's fascinating. I can watch this anytime, anywhere, and it just makes sense to me, and I connect with it every time. But what I'm seeing more and more with this is that a different generation, the generations coming up, they're bored to death with this. They don't get it. They don't like it. They don't know. They don't understand what the hype is. And I'm curious if you're part of that generation, that you're kind of having a shift. Like, we all grew up with this, so we loved this. We rented it from the video store over and over and over. It was on cable constantly. This was a staple when it came to horror movies. It was one of the big classics that we went to. Let me know, what is it about this that people are kind of turning the tides and they're just not into it? They find it boring. They find it slow. I find it fascinating. So I'm curious to know what people think, because over and over and over, everywhere I looked, from Reddit to Instagram to reviews on YouTube, TikToks, everything, the younger generations really, really don't connect with this version of The Shining. They just don't like it. And I find that interesting, because this is one of those movies that, like, we all loved it and we all held it in such high regard, and there's been a shift somewhere. Okay, so that's it. Those are my 10 movies that I find people don't like, or they're very polarizing, that I personally enjoy. So I hope maybe you found a few movies that maybe you've put off seeing because maybe you heard the hubbub on social media and you weren't sure about it. Maybe you're willing to give them a chance. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you're going to check out that maybe you've been avoiding. And hopefully you found something here that you might want to check out. And the next part of this, of course, is going to be movies that people love that I don't connect with, so you guys will have the opportunity to beat me up on that one. But I want to thank everyone so much for taking the time to check out these videos. You know I appreciate each and every one of you who shows up here and clicks on the videos, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like things like this, recommendations, fun lists that we can fight about, movie collections, room tours, anything that has to do with physical media, we do it here. Consider subscribing and make sure you hit that bell notification so you know when I upload my videos, because people have been telling me that they're not getting notified when I post videos, so I don't want you to miss anything. And that's going to do it for me today, so I'll catch you in the next one. So for now, that's a wrap.